Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Middle schooler encounters a thieving bully demanding money. Complying, he leads the bully to a neighbor's house, revealing a connection to a gang. The second story. Boss demotes an employee due to low wages. The vengeful engineer sabotages a critical project with fake technical manuals. The third story. Arrogant Porsche driver challenges border customs, demands a by-the-book inspection. Today's first story is thieving bully demands I take him home in order to give him my fundraising earnings. I comply and it works out beautifully for me. I was in middle school in the 90s. I loved growing up then, and even though there were gangs in my area, I generally avoided trouble. One of my classes had this big field trip planned, and they had us selling chocolates to raise money for our trip. I was pretty good at it, and was selling at a good rate. I would take the bus, public transportation, to school, and my stop was about 2 blocks from my home. I got off at my stop one day with my box of chocolates, and there was this older kid, around 16 to 17, pretty big for his age, hanging out there. He saw me and came towards me. This guy is clearly a gangbanger. Payaso comes up to me and says, "Hey homie, where you from?" He was asking what gang I was from. It's not the first time I get challenged like this, so I just reply, "I don't bang, man. I'm just a junior high kid." Payaso looks at my box of chocolates and takes it from me. "What's this?" I tell him it's nothing. It's something for school. He opens the box and sees a bunch of dollars in there. He grabs the bills, around $15, my sales for the day, and takes a bunch of chocolates as well. "Tomorrow you're gonna give me $20 more. If you don't, we're gonna have a real effing problem." I walk away feeling scared and peeved off. I realized I'm gonna have to pay back the lost money from my birthday money, and I definitely didn't want to give this guy any more money. I think about it and decide I'll get off at a later bus stop from now and walk a little more just to avoid this guy. The next day, this is what I do. I stuff my box in my backpack just in case, and I exit about 2 stops later. I don't see the guy and think I've solved my problem. Then I get the liquor store a block away from home, and who do I see but this overgrown idiot Payaso. "Hey man, you didn't forget about me, did you?" I said, "Look man, I don't have any money right now. I don't even have my chocolates. I left them at home." I shouldn't have said that. "Okay, let's go to your house and you're gonna give me the money or something else if you don't got it." I begin getting real nervous. My mom is at work and my grandma's home. I definitely don't want to bring him home with her there. I glance at him and notice the tattoos on his arms. At this point, I saw the perfect opportunity for malicious compliance. I tell him, "I don't think that's a good idea. Why don't you just let me go, man?" Payaso grabs me by the collar and says, "I tell you what to do and you effing do it, you understand?" I nod my head and tell him to follow me. Now it's time to give a little background. My neighbor that lived in the house next to mine was a veterano, a veteran of one of the biggest, most notorious gangs in the city. He was in his 40s and a real chill dude. He loved my grandma because she would often share plates of food she made with him and his wife. And he was fond of me because I taught his 8-year-old boy how to play baseball. His son had a disability, a problem with one of his legs, so most other kids wouldn't play with him, but I often did. Let's call my neighbor OG. OG always had a bunch of guys over at his house. He made sure they never caused problems and they were all respectful towards my family in particular. Back to Payaso. The tattoos on his arms? I realized he was from the same gang as OG. I have a big smile as I'm walking home, and Payaso asks me, "Why are you smiling, P, idiot?" I say no reason and keep walking home. As we get closer, I see a bunch of guys hanging out at OG's house. Payaso narrows his eyes, then smiles as he recognizes some of the guys. We get to OG's house and Payaso says, "Wait here, P, let me talk to my homies." OG is sitting on his porch and Payaso starts greeting some of the guys, and then heads towards OG and greets him in a reverential manner. OG notices me and says, "Hey OP, what's up?" Payaso turns to look at me and I say, "Payaso told me to wait here. I have to go home and give him money." OG stands up and says, "Why do you have to give him money?" I say because he told me yesterday at my bus stop that the $15 in chocolates he took from me wasn't enough, and I had to give him more today. Payaso begins to speak. "You know this kid, OG?" OG gives him the scariest look I've ever seen and tells him to shut the F up. OG looks back at me and asks, "Is this from the chocolates you're selling?" I said yes. OG asks me how many chocolates I have left to sell. I say about 50. He tells me not to worry. Payaso's gonna pay me for the 50 I have left, plus 20 for the day before, and an extra 50 for my trouble. He tells me to keep whatever else I sell. He tells me to go home and Payaso would be back later with my money. About an hour later, there's a knock on my door, and Payaso has an envelope and says, "Here's $120, little homie. I effed up. I'm sorry. Do you have Nintendo? I brought you some games." I just stood there stunned and thinking how I never would have guessed that getting robbed had so many benefits. I didn't see Payaso too many times after that, but whenever I did, he would wave at me and never bothered me again. The story takes us to the world of the 90s, when a boy sells chocolates to raise money for a school trip. Here he meets a high school student who turns out to be a gang member. This guy, whom they called Payaso, decides to rob our OP by taking his fees and chocolate. The situation becomes critical when Payaso demands another $20 from the boy. However, the guy decides to use the opportunity to make a cunning response. Instead of refusing, he agrees to take Payaso to his house. And then comes the unexpected twist. It would seem that this is a risky answer, but a veteran gang neighbor, whom they call OG, plays an important role here. OG, thanks to his good relationship with the protagonist's family, helps resolve the conflict. And after that, Payaso not only apologizes and returns the stolen money, but also brings gifts. Super ending. The next story is, boss can't hire with SH wages, so demotes me instead. Okay, but it'll cost you £1 million. A few years ago, I worked at a janky 2-bit company. The boss thought he was Billy Big Bollocks and God's gift simultaneously. He had such a big head, I'm surprised he could get through doorways. He used to drink beer at his desk for lunch, and would often arrive at work late. He was also an insufferable muscle bro and walked around as if carrying rolls of carpet under each arm. A few months into my time there, the company starts winning large orders, so he asks me to set up a small-scale production line to increase capacity, and tells me the new hire will be situated there. I design it, set it up, test it all works, and I'm feeling a sense of pride with what I've accomplished. It worked like a dream. I was confident it would work really well for the new hire. Because I'm an engineer by trade, everything was perfect, and only I knew how to fix the broken SH. Nobody else asked how it worked before making some very detrimental decisions. A while later, there was an issue. He couldn't hire anyone willing to accept such an SH wage and boring work. So Billy Big Bollocks had a bright idea to demote me and make me governor of my creation. No way, not for $9K less. I immediately started job hunting, and I told him, if that's your final offer, regard tomorrow is my final day. He panics that he's committed to the company to a £1 million order due for shipping in 3 days. During his alcohol-fueled panic, he tells me to write up highly detailed technical manuals and processes for my replacement. The production line included some precise handwork. Pee off, I can't do that in 1 day. He also didn't specify what they should contain, and considering I had no help from him with this project, just complaints, I thought F it. So sure, he got his manuals. I created Word documents with convincing titles like Technical Manual, Product Version 2.0, and how to do this precise task. Inside the documents were, for example, the surprise Pikachu face and Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys looking lost. Then below, just one line of text reading, "This manual contains all the information I could find or was given." The final sizes would also indicate a lot of text was contained within thanks to the images. Therefore, at face value, they looked legitimate. I saved them to my laptop in an equally legitimate-looking folder that afternoon. Early the next morning, I came to work to collect my belongings and do some handovers, and found the laptop had vanished. I said my goodbyes to my colleagues and looked over to see him looking incensed with a beer in one hand. He was so angry he didn't look up from his desk. A friend told me later that the company missed the production deadline despite him working 12-hour days to try to catch up. Apparently, the client was extremely effed off. Don't screw over good people, P. The story's about working in a small company, where the boss turned out to be an arrogant and unpleasant dude. After you've completed an important task, the boss, instead of expressing gratitude, decides to reduce your salary because of the difficulty of finding a new employee at a low salary. You do not agree to such conditions and start looking for a new job. That's the right decision. So when the boss panics, he demands that you write a detailed technical explanation for his replacement, and he expects to come out on top of this situation. But it's not that simple, because you make an incredibly inventive move. Instead of full instructions, he creates files with funny images and short text that really don't explain anything. It's just genius. Now, the order's not completed and the client loses trust, which leads to dissatisfaction and problems. The third story is, buy the book. I work for my country's customs administration. We basically do what you would expect. Anything that comes into my country is subject to duties, levies, and taxes, and the goods can be inspected to ensure all the paperwork filed actually conforms with reality. Certain differences exist between private and commercial goods. Most private goods are not subject custom duties, exceptions being meat, alcohol, tobacco, and a few other products. But other than that, customs law applies in every aspect of both commercial and private entities crossing the border, meaning that many regulations usually reserved for truck drivers and professionals can easily be applied when it comes to private individuals. This was something particularly nasty Traveler had to realize when he bumps heads with my superior. I was working a night shift at a rather small border station in the north of my country, where me, a colleague, and my superior had activated an irregularly manned border station. Not all border stations are permanently manned, and opening a border station outside of its assigned working hours is referred to as activating it. It was 3:40 in the morning and we didn't see too many cars. The ones that crossed over were foreigners who drove into our country for work. Many of them lived in the border region, knew the procedures, and played ball. Some were friendly, some a bit grumpy. Unsurprising if you have to get up that early. But all of them did as we asked. Show some identification, answer our questions about what's in your vehicle, and maybe endure us taking a look inside. And then it arrived, a black Porsche Cayenne. Until then, I didn't even know what the Porsches made SUVs. In the Porsche was Mark, not his real name. Mark basically looked like Christian Bale looked while playing Patrick Bateman in the movie American Psycho. The suit, the haircut, his briefcase. Everything indicated that he had money and wanted people to know about it, which is fine. People should enjoy having nice things, and signaling is a part of social interaction. We treat everyone the same, and we expected this encounter to go as uneventfully as the previous ones. Boy, were we wrong. We nicely asked him for his ID card or passport, which he handed over. We then asked Mark what he was transporting in the car. When he stopped, we saw that there were several cardboard boxes in the trunk and on the back seat, which he answered with, "I don't see how that's any of your business." Bad mistake. It was in fact not our only business, but the very nature of our job. And since Mark had not only failed to answer, but had also failed the attitude test, we ordered him to open the trunk. He got out of the car and opened his mouth again. "I'll open the trunk, but just so you know, I want this done by the book. You touching my stuff is unacceptable to begin with. So if you damage anything or I find as much as a smudge, I'll put you in a world of hurt. Now confirm that you understood me now." At this point, my superior stepped forward. "We've understood you quite well. Now I just need to know whether you were serious when you said that you want this to be done by the book. Can you confirm that you want this done by the book?" Mark then sealed his fate by answering in the affirmative, upon which my superior updated him on the situation. Splendid. According to customs law, the person crossing the border is responsible for opening and unloading the vehicle he or she drives, must unpack all containers, present the goods for inspection, repackage them, and reload the vehicle. When it comes to non-commercial crossings, we usually do all that, as not to inconvenience private travelers. But since you want this done by the book, you'll have to do it. Failure to comply allows me to keep you and your vehicle at this border station for as long as I want. Any kind of resistance allows me to restrain you. And now get to work, and make sure you don't accidentally damage your own car or its contents." Mark then had to lift several cardboard boxes filled with all kinds of personal items. It appears he was moving apartments into the border station, had to unpack all of them, lay out the contents piece by piece for inspection, repackage everything, and reload his car. Had he simply answered that the boxes contained nothing significant, we would have taken a quick glance into the trunk, and he would have been on his way after 3 minutes. This way, the whole procedure took 35 minutes and left some nice sweat stains on Mark's shirt. He filed a complaint. The complaint was dismissed, since everything was done by the book. Mark is very dissatisfied and even aggressive, expressing disrespect for the customs officers and demanding that everything be done by the book. However, it's difficult for him to realize that by the book means following all the rules exactly, even when it comes to private individuals. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.